Hello and welcome to the Winning Agenda's coverage of another Double Masters draft. My name's Jesse Marshall and we've got an interesting one here. So I don't love red in general in the format, but we have a sort of pretty sweet 1-2 punch in red in the rare slot. But we've also got Cool Death of Flame Fiend as probably the next best card in the pack alongside Revoke Existence and Executioner's Capsule, both of which are sweet removal. I'll just get my little face down a little bit so it's not in the way. There is also reasonably far behind that, a Metallic Rebuke, which is actually increasing in my estimations as time goes on. I think this is pretty powerful, given the number of high impact sort of 5 to 7 mana spells in the format. But I think we'll take the Sunforger because it is playable even if we don't end up in red-white. And I think I'd rather be in white splashing into the red to get the Sunforger activation, even though Godo and Cool Death of Flame Fiend are both pretty sweet. I think I'll take the Revoke Existence instead. The other option would be to just take Executioner's Capsule and Revoke Existence and go into more of an Esper or Metallic Rebuke and go into more of an Esper area, which is sort of where I enjoy being, or to take the Cool Death of Flame Fiend alongside the Sunforger, I think, is the slightly better 6-drop than Godo. I think let's lock this in and see how we go. So we're instantly rewarded for not being in red, which is nice. We've got probably one of the better commons in the set in Conclave Naturalist, but we've also got Hana Ship's Navigator, which is totally fine in an artifact heavy deck, of which you tend to have one if you're in Esper colors. There's also Valorous Stance, which is mediocre removal. There's Urza's Power Plant if we want to try and go the Tron route, which we probably don't. Although I have been beaten by Tron a little bit recently, which I don't enjoy very much in draft. Or there's Mere Retriever, which is also nice. I kind of think I want to, even though Conclave Naturalist is very good, I think maybe we'll go Hana to stick to the Esper colors for now and just try and get a bit of that card advantage going. So there's Time Sieve, which is not very good. There's Chromatic Star, which works well with Hana and Sunforger a little bit to splash. There's Glaze Fiend, which I don't love. Academy Ruins, which I don't think we need if we've got Hana. Although it obviously does play well into the same themes. But I think I'm happy to take the Chromatic Star over there. I mean, Diafleet Horde is nice in black, and so is Rapacious Dragon in red. Both of them creating treasure tokens is actually a pretty huge deal when it gives you extra splash cards, splash mana sources, I should say. Relic Runner is fine. Iron Lake Steeds are fine. I dare say one of them will come back. Glaze Fiend is great if you're heavier into black, but I think at the moment we can just hedge a bit and go for the star. Vexing Shusher is not where we're at. Penthead Prism I don't love either. Argivian Restoration tends to go around pretty late. So this is an interesting one. I think probably the better cards in the pack are Heartless Pillage is okay. Darksteel Axe is quite mediocre, but playable. Salivating Gremlins is reasonable. But I think here, if Flayer Husk or Argivian Restoration or Penthead Prism are probably the pick for us. In fact, let's take the Penthead Prism. It gives us a bit of acceleration as well as a bit of splash potential, and it plays well into any artifact theme if we do get some outlets for sacrificing artifacts, although that is more a red-black situation than a blue-white situation generally. So Orcish Vandal doesn't work so well with Hana, but that's a reasonably late Orcish Vandal, and it does work well with Penthead Prism. Although if we were to go back into red, Rapacious Dragon and Salivating Gremlins have just gone around, so we're a little bit late on that train. Skull Mulcher only sacrifices creatures when it enters the battlefield, so it's probably not that. I think we can just take the Metallic Rebuke here. And Vishkal. Okay, so we get pretty solidly rewarded for sticking to the Esper plan, although we now want to look more towards black rather than possibly white as a main colour, or possibly blue. So black and then either white or blue as our main colours if we want to play Vishkal, although Pented Prism helps us to play it anyway, regardless of what our exact configuration ends up being. Painsmith and Defiant Salvager and Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot would all be fine to wheel here, but let's just go with the Vishkal for now. I'm going to take the Fairy Mechanist over the Glint Sleeve Artisan. Magus of the Abyss I haven't loved, like it dies pretty regularly. This is the turn after they kill their worst non-artifact creature, and that's not a great rate of return for 4 mana, and you just can't reliably have it hang around as a 4 mana 4/3. There's just very few play patterns that allow you to actually abuse the ability in this particular format, particularly since you can't sacrifice artifact creatures to it. So the options here are sort of Remember the Fallen or Ash Barrens or Relic Runner. Relic Runner if we want to be a little more aggressive. I'm not super keen to be. I kind of like the Ash Barrens just for a bit of extra fixing. Remember the Fallen would be fine, but I think we're most likely to play the Ash Barrens, so let's go ahead and take that. Steel Sabotage is okay. Pented Prism is more aggressive acceleration, but you know, card disadvantage in amongst that. So I think I'm more keen to take a Steel Sabotage than a second Pented Prism at this point. And then we can take the Skinwing for a perfectly fine 4-drop. We get a Relic Runner anyway, and we pick up the late Heartless Pillage with Golem Skin and Gauntlets going in the sideboard. And the last pick to find Salvage is actually really nice here because it lets us recycle Pented Prisms, and it allows us to trigger, you know, Morbid or other things that we need to on our turn, as well as just being a fine old little 3-drop. And if we can pick up more Eco Wellsprings, then that'll work nicely with both the Salvager and with Hunter for a little more of that kind of grindy card advantage which we all enjoy out of Esper. The Pented Prism and the Chromatic Star also let us splash Sunforger. We don't have heaps going on at the moment. We've only got, they need to be instants, so we don't have Erotic Existence, so we actually have literally nothing going on in that regard at the moment. We could pick up the top of the statue, because that does work with it. So we've got Stonehewer Giant. We're not going to take Terastodon. I think we will pick up the Topple, not just because it gives us something off Sunforger, but because I think it is probably the next best card in the pack. Stonehewer Giant works well with Sunforger and with Skinwing, which we've already got, but if we do pick up a sword in pack 3, then that's something else as well. Thraben Inspector and Ancestral Blade and Cast Down. Yeah, maybe Cast Down is better than Topple for us here, actually, in a vacuum. It's kind of close. Like, Topple replaces itself. It obviously only kills artifact creatures and artifacts. Cast Down kills more creatures by percentage of the pool, but Topple actually kills a lot of creatures that are quite hard to otherwise kill as well, in the kind of, particularly if you're going up against another Esper deck, as well as obviously killing non-creature artifacts. And being a cantrip as well, and hit coming in off Sunforger is helpful. But yes, Thraben Inspector and Ancestral Blade, either of those would be great to wheel, or a Defiant Salvager as well, which would be totally fine. I'm just really tossing up between this Topple and the Cast Down. I think it's really close for us here. I actually think it's looking most likely... well, I mean, we can't really know. We're early on in pack 2 as to whether white is going to be our third colour. We might actually end up quite evenly split across the 3 colours. I think we'll take the Topple. I think it's got slightly more upside. We'll take the Sanctum Gargoyle here, I think, over Sculpting Steel. Sculpting Steel is very, very good. We don't necessarily have heaps of targets for the Gargoyle at the moment, but I expect us to pick up more. And it's just the kind of card that we really want if we're going heavy Esper. You could take the Unlicensed Disintegration for another red splash, but I think since there's Sanctum Gargoyle, Sculpting Steel, and I'd probably even consider taking Riddlesmith over it at this point, given our colours, I think that's fine. Fairy Mechanist here over the Salvage Titan, which is okay, but we don't really need just a 6/4 fatty at this point. I don't think. We'd much rather have the Mechanist and beef up our artifact capabilities and our artifact numbers, which makes our original Mechanist better, makes our Relic Runner better, but yeah, just in general, we want more good artifacts in the deck. So here it's a pretty close one between Glint Sleeve Artisan and Mere Retriever. We haven't picked up the Ica Wellsprings, we haven't picked up a lot of the other artifacts that we're wanting to recur, but once you start picking up enough Mere Retrievers and Sanctum Gargoyles, you get some pretty powerful loops that it can be harder for your opponent to disrupt. I still don't think we want Glaze Fiend. I'm just not a fan of this card. Like, yeah, sometimes it goes off and it's amazing, but sometimes it is just stone cold garbage. We might not end up playing this Heartless Pillage. We might be more looking at a black splash at this point. It's looking like we're ending up more in blue-white anyway. So it's really, do we want the Glint Sleeve or do we want the Mere Retriever? I'm kind of minded towards the Glint Sleeve, but I think Mere Retriever is probably better. And we got, well, there's a couple of options here that would have rewarded us for either pick. So Crusader obviously works well as an aggressive option with Glint Sleeve, but I think Mearsmith is a good pickup for us here. And I'm pretty happy to take that over a Yavimai's Embrace, which we could splash if it wheels, or an Expedition map, or we're probably not going to play Fortify, and I don't think Glaze Fiend or Sanctum Spirit, but if this Twisted Abomination wheels, that would be really sweet as well to help us with the black splash. So it's obviously not going to be Riku. It could be Crusader of Odric here. We've still got, and we're going to want to keep developing a reasonable curve. Cloud Raider Sphinx is nice though. Corridor Monitor, I did have a very sweet deck involving Corridor Monitor and Grand Architect recently that powered out some pretty powerful things pretty early, particularly because Corridor Monitors can then untap each other when you cast them and then allow you to play the next thing and tap for 2 more mana off the Grand Architect. But yeah, I think I'll take the Crusader. No, I'll take the Sphinx. We've got a few 3-drops, even though we may not play some of them, and I think the more flyers that we can pick up here, the better. So we'll take Mechanist number 3, and then we've just got to really focus on developing, I think, our removal suite earlier, and then going over the top with some of these flyers. And also, if we can, I think something like a Gleaming Barrier would be okay, particularly out of the board. Alright, we'll take the very late Topple out of what looks to have been a reasonably powerful pack, judging by the cards that are left in it. But yeah, we'll happily take Topple number 2, which unfortunately does make me feel a little more regretful about taking the Topple over the Cast Down earlier on. I still don't think we want Springleaf Drum here, even though it's acceleration and it gives us more chance of playing Fairy Mechanist on turn 3. I think we'd prefer to have Thraben Inspector. And the Riddlesmith came back as well. The option to take the Frogify, but Riddlesmith for us is going to be very powerful card selection, so I think that's pretty hard for us to give up. Wooded Bastion, not getting us heaps as a splash, so that's okay. Salvage Titan, we'll take we're not guaranteed to play it because we don't really have enough artifacts that we want to be sacrificing to cast it. Take the Iron Bully as well. But if we do pick up a lot of Ica Wellsprings, we'll take the Yavimai's Embrace, which we may end up splashing. So that might have been actually another reason to take the Wooded Bastion. But I think the other pick was Thraben Inspector, and we're just not going to take the dual land over the Thraben Inspector, which I would have considered taking the first time around. Sylvan might get in the sideboard. So not a bad pack 1 and pack 2, I have to say. I think this Heartless Pillage can get out of there. Defiant Salvager is probably unlikely to get played. And we do want a couple more ways to get black mana to get this Vish happening, because splashing for double black off just the Pentad Prism is not feeling super amazing. I think we want, yeah, a couple of dual lands and or Twisted Abominations to help us with that. So not great cards in the rare slot here, unfortunately. We have a 3-bin Inspector and an Executioner's Capsule that I think we'll take. Although Echo Wellspring and Mere Retriever are also nice for us here. So it's a bit of a tough one. I think 3-bin Inspector is better than Echo Wellspring still, despite everything. Mostly because if we do cut the Defiant Salvager, then we don't have many ways to get artifacts into the bin particularly easily from our side of the board. So yeah, is the I think we can afford to take a few more black cards and try and even out the colors a little bit. I think that would actually probably be better for us to have a few more swamps in the deck and a few more removal spells if we can pick them up. And I'm happy to take the 3-bin Inspector just as a thing that blocks Goblin Gabaliers or whatever else early. I think it's totally fine. So we're not going to take Erixmathes. I don't think we want another Defiant Salvager, particularly now that we didn't take the Ichor Wellspring there, because it's very unlikely to come back around. Crusader of Odric and Peace Strider are both fine. I mean, it's probably not really a Crusader of Odric deck at the moment. We didn't pick up any of the Glint Sleeves, and we're looking mainly at killing them with flyers. So it could be a Remember the Fallen, which has a decent chance of getting us a 2-for-1, although it would be a little slow because a lot of our artifacts are focused towards these Mechanists. The other option is a Silumgar Scavenger, which we, again, don't have heaps of good targets for to exploit. Remember the Fallen is quite slow though. I think let's take the Crusader. It's just another okay creature for us to play early. Well, we'll take the cast down now that we've got the E-Cap. Hope that this Ash Barrens or the Expedition map comes back around. Not guaranteed to do so, but yeah, more removal is definitely what we were looking for. So it's a tough one between cast down and Crypt Swap. Like, sometimes you run into things that you just really need the exile effects for. So I am quite torn, especially since we're already more heavily into white, and it's going to be easier for us to cast the Crypt Swap. But again, I think even a cast down is cheaper, doesn't leave them with a 1/1. And although it doesn't exile, it's another black card again that helps us play more black, which is a downside and an upside. I don't know. I'm quite torn. Earlier on in the format, I would have definitely taken the cast down over the Crypt Swap, but I have seen that this can be quite an important effect to have against a lot of the bombs. But I'm just going to take the cast down here. We'll take another Executioner's Capsule over Mere Retriever, and Cloud Reader Sphinx would probably be my next pick, so it's probably the Sphinx higher, but I think I'm happier to take the Capsule anyway here. Sphinx, wow, this is, take this whole pack. I take this Executioner's Capsule, the Topple, the Sphinx, and I'd consider the Doomed Necromancer. But I'm just really happy to take the Sphinx here. We've already got 2 E-Caps. The third one is good. Same with the third Topple, but having another finisher, especially a premier finisher like this, is really, really good. It's not going to be ad nauseum. It could be Springleaf Drum. We do have a few 2-drops. And a couple of 1-drops. Yeah, I think with the 2 3-bin Inspectors, we can consider playing the Springleaf Drum to accelerate us into the Mechanists, and also help us to fix the colours a little. So let's take that. We've got another Relic Runner, which I'm going to take over the second Springleaf Drum because we're not going to play 2. It's better than Glaze Fiend, and Argivian Restoration is not doing anything particularly exciting for us. So what are we going to cut here? Crusader's probably not going to get there. Actually, that's not the worst card in the deck. It's probably going to have to be some of the non-creatures, though. Sorry, some of the non-artifacts, I should say, because otherwise these mechanists do get significantly worse. I guess Thespian stage is okay. Yeah, why not? Pongify Silumgar Scavenger is now actually looking a little better now that we've got the Thraben Inspectors, and if we do end up playing the Mirror Retriever, so perhaps let's take that. Pongify also actually is an option. But yeah, let's take the Scavenger. Expedition Map, another option. Diefleet Hoarder, actually I'm pretty happy to see because it's fixing and it's another good 2-drop. Could take Hinder, but I think I'll take the Hoarder for an option. Cloud Sphinx late. Wow, okay. Well, just even in those last few picks, we definitely got a few options. So what's this Hana doing for us? It's doing Executioner's Capsule things, which is cool. And that is pretty much all that it and the Sanctum Gargoyle are likely to be doing early, although later on obviously it gets the chance to get back these Mechanists and the Sphinx of the Guild Pact, which is cool, in case it does die. Take the Ash Barons out for now, and we'll start cutting this down. So I think these things are fixing, which is nice, but we'll just play some combination of them and probably not all of them. And we've also got the Ash Barons. Steel Sabotage probably comes out since we've got a few other 1-drops and quite a bit of removal, including 2 topples now. And a Revoke Existence, so quite a lot of removal. Let's group creatures separately. We can probably also cut the Metallic Rebuke. The Sun Forger, what's it grab? It grabs the 2 topples, and that's it. Only red or white instance, yep. So Sun Forging once in the game for topple would be okay. It also is a target for the Stonehewer Giant, but we could cut both the Stonehewer Giant and the Sun Forger. That's an option. Yeah, Defiant Salvager, what's it trying to sacrifice here? Mirror Retriever is a fine target, but I think we'd rather just play the Silumgar Scavenger. So I think we can cut that. I'm not sure we need the 2 Relic Runners and the Riddlesmith Direfleet Hoarder, etc., etc. I think we'd rather play just the Smiths and the Direfleet Hoarder. I think they're going to be better for us. Because this blocks pretty well. It trades into a treasure token with a low drop. And Riddlesmith and Mearsmith give us ongoing advantage. Yeah, so I mean, that's 18 creatures, which is quite a lot. 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, we're probably going to have to cut some of these creatures, so maybe Silumgar Scavenger does come out. Maybe Stonehewer Giant and Sun Forger come out. That leaves us on 25. So we've got Chromatic Star and Ash Barons for fixing at the moment. I think we probably... don't think we need Pentad Prism, but I wouldn't mind having the Springleaf Drum for the acceleration. And the fixing. This Crusader can probably come out as well. So let's bring in Springleaf Drum. I don't think we need the map, so if we just have the Ash Barons... so we'll leave that out for now because it's a land. So 25. So we'll cut 1 or 2 cards here. So this is a pretty kind of like standard, not particularly exciting Esper deck. Like the 3 Mechanists are good, the Gargoyle is good, the Mirror Retriever is okay. The Sphinx is a decent finisher, and Vishkal's a great finisher. And we've got, a good suite of removal. But there's nothing that's kind of like completely bonkers. Like the deck's not doing anything completely overpowered with Esper Zoas, and it's not explosive. It's not going Esper Zoas and Eco Wellsprings and lots of other comes into the battlefield effects, I should say. So that's something to think about. Don't think we want to cut one of the low drops, and I think we want to keep our flying squad intact. So maybe the Skinwing, actually. I don't think we really need another 4-cost 2/2, and we've got the 3 Fairy Mechanists. So that looks like an okay 24 to me. The Mirror Retriever's probably a little weak, but that's okay. I think with 2 Executioner's Capsules and a Chromatic Star, there's enough early opportunities to get artifacts into the bin. So let's add 17 land and play 41 cards for the Isaac special. So 6, 4, 5. How does that look? Let's just add that and then sort by color. So 6 islands, 4 swamps, and 5 plains. So that gives us 6, well, only 5 white sources on turn 1 for these Thraben Inspectors is not ideal. I think we'd probably cut an island since all of our blue cards are a little more expensive, with some exceptions, like Riddlesmith's obviously a 2-drop, but I think we want an extra plains and possibly an extra swamp as well for essentially 5 black sources. Yeah, the mana here is pretty awkward. Let's add an extra plains for sure. Oh, that leaves us with, oh, we're only on 16 land, so add an extra swamp. So that leaves us on 5, 6, 5, plus the Ash Barrens. Yeah, I think 6 blue sources plus the Ash Barrens is hopefully enough, and the Springleaf Drum helps us to cast the blue, more expensive blue cards off the black and white cheaper creatures. We'll just sort back a better mana cost because I'm thinking with the slightly more awkward mana, do we want to consider playing some, like, one more colorless creature? In Iron Bully, I think probably not. Yeah, I don't think Iron Bully is better than anything. Like, it's not better than Direfleet Hoarder, Mirror Retriever for us here. I mean, it'd be kind of pointless to cut Mirror Retriever for Iron Bully. I don't think it's better than a Thraben Inspector. Yeah, let's just go with this. Alright, we'll be back with round 1 very shortly. Hello and welcome back to round 1. We have won the die roll. And this is actually not a particularly easy choice in this format. I'm actually going to draw first, something that I've started to do a little more frequently. This is fine as a keeper, particularly on the draw. But yeah, I think with a bit more of a 3-color Dirtle deck, in some ways it can be better to be on the draw because you've got a higher percentage of keepable hands. But also getting the extra card is actually kind of sweet. So let's go ahead and play the plains. And I think we'll grab an island, most likely, to play this Riddlesmith with the Ash Barrens. So we're here on a Saturday afternoon. It's just ticked over midday. Very cold here in Melbourne, Australia at the moment. Coming out of winter, heading into spring hopefully soon. So yes, that does not change my view, and we'll basically uncycle this into an island because we did not need to grab the black immediately for a cast down is the main reason. So draw another island, which is okay. It means that we can topple something, and we are up against at least black-white, possibly Esper. But yeah, as the format has developed, I think I'm seeing a higher and higher percentage of decks that are in Esper. Okay, well this is a fantastic target for our topple next turn. So I'm feeling very good about that. Fantastic in the sense that it's a creature that we get to remove and draw a card. So a whoop-de-doo. Get in there for an attack with the Riddlesmith, and then next turn we've got possibly Fairy Mechanist if we draw a land. Otherwise we can go Chromatic Star, play Thraben Inspector, or Chromatic Star, play Cast Down if we need to. And yeah, casting down this golem seems like a pretty reasonable thing to do. Well, what do you know? We drew a swamp. That is fantastic. So the question is, do we want to topple it or do we want to cast it down? I think we want to topple it and save the cast down personally. Although that does mean if they play some kind of gigantic legendary artifact creature, then we're going to be in a bit of trouble. But that's okay, I think. The other awkward thing about topple is it means that we can't play the Thraben Inspector this turn, but that's okay. We can use the Chromatic Star to play the topple. Go to trigger off the Riddlesmith, which puts the Chromatic Star in the bin for next turn. I don't think we need the Springleaf Drum. Yeah, I think that's the card we need least out of our hand. I mean, we can get it back as well with the Gargoyle if we want. So we'll play the Chromatic Star, and then we'll go ahead and topple the Golem with 1, and then add blue with that, and then 3. So we've played the topple, we'll draw from the star. Fantastic. Get rid of the Golem, and then we've drawn Vishkal, which means we're more likely to want to get back that Springleaf Drum, and we also won't attack into the Master Splicer here. And trade, so that is fine. We'll pass the turn. So our opponent's got 4 cards, we've got 6 cards. Okay, Cranial Plating, well, I think if they offer the trade with the Master Splicer now, with the plating on it, pretty happy to take it. Okay. Without the plating on it, however, not so keen. Right, well, yes, I think we do want to get back this Springleaf Drum, so I think we'll go Sanctum Gargoyle, get back the Springleaf Drum, play the Springleaf Drum, so that next turn we can play, rather than Throven Inspector, so next turn we can play Vishkal. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll probably discard... yeah, if we discard the island, it means that we don't necessarily get to play Springleaf Drum next turn, but sorry, that we don't necessarily get to play Vishkal next turn. Maybe we discard Thraben Inspector. Although Thraben Inspector I feel is going to be okay on against this board. But we do just want to get this Vishkal happening as soon as possible, I think. And we've got 2 cast downs, so... yeah, we'll go ahead and just take the Springleaf Drum. Use the ability. Play that now. We get another loot. And... this time it might be Mechanist that goes in the bin. Or it could... yeah. I think it's the Mechanist. Again, it could have been the island, but it was kind of unfortunate we didn't draw another land to loot away there, but that's okay. Let's attack with the Riddlesmith, because we're happy to trade for that soldier. In some ways, that actually was pretty awkward, trading the Riddlesmith there, because in the long game, that's actually probably going to do a bit for us. And would have been another kill off Vishkal next turn. And also now we can't cast the Vishkal, because both our creatures are gone. So, yeah, that was all reasonably awkward. And I think it was much better to trade on the D, given the Cranial Plating. Yeah, okay, that turn was not ideal. However, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, play the Cloud Raider Sphinx, scry 2, and then revoke existence the Cranial Plating. No, I think we'd rather just cast down the creature on their turn. So we'll scry 2, find another land. So we'll put E-Cap on top, and then planes on top of that. Pass the turn, cast down the Splicer. And then we get Vishkal going next turn. Hopefully they don't have removal. Alright, well that's good. They use their removal this turn, and we get to cast down as well. So that's great for us. And it leaves us with a creature as well to use on our Springleaf Drum. So a little bit of a muppety attack with the Riddlesmith, but hopefully we can get out of it here with Vishkal. Unless they have another piece of removal immediately. Yes. So we've drawn a lot more cards than our opponent, but yet somehow we've ended up not in a great position through probably a couple of ill-timed and poor decisions with discards. Discarding the Mechanist was probably also pretty greedy. Like, we discarded 2 pieces of card advantage and held onto an island. Never liked doing that. So Iron Bully comes down, puts a counter on the Inspector, so we can kill the Iron Bully at any point by sacking the Shapeshifter. They're equipping the Blade. If we get to untap here, we're in pretty good shape. Which we will, because neither of their creatures are faced. So yes, let's go ahead and play Executioner's Capsule. Attack with Vish. And we're just happy to deal them 5 for now, because we can pick up more damage if we can draw more creatures. Another reason why discarding the Mechanist was very much on the greedy side. I mean, I knew that at the time, but certainly feeling it now. If we draw a couple more land, we're going to really start feeling how greedy that was, particularly if they draw a removal spell for Vish. So they're digging hard. Glaze Fiend, okay. That we can get rid of pretty easily. The E-Cap. We can deal with both of those creatures now if we want to. So tap this, kill that. We don't really need to kill the Iron Bully by getting rid of our Shapeshifter. Kind of like having access to the double black. Actually, I'd rather kill the Glaze Fiend. So, well, yeah, cool. We can kill the Glaze Fiend with Vish by sacking the Shapeshifter. So, yeah, that worked out okay, despite the somewhat greedy discards. Salvage Titan feels like it could be okay. I think our flying squad looks like it's going to do pretty good stuff against them. So they're playing kind of a more cranial plating, Glaze Fiend based strategy. So going for a bit more of the artifact aggression. So Relic Runners are not going to be the answer. Steel Sabotage could be pretty good against the kind of powered up Glaze Fiend, and it's also good against the Golem from the Master Splicer. Don't think Heartless Pillage is going to be fast enough for us, and I still don't think we need Salvage Titan. We just didn't pick up the right cards for it with how we drafted. So what to cut for the Steel Sabotage? I think Diafleet Hoarder I like because it trades favourably. I also like the Thraben Inspectors. Chromatic Star is good for the fixing, which we need. Could be the Mirror Retriever that comes out for the Steel Sabotage. Yeah, Mirror Retriever doesn't block Glaze Fiends as well, which is not great if they do have multiple. Okay. Well, this hand looks pretty good. If we can draw the Swamp for the E-Cap and get a bit of E-Cap recursion going on, I can see that being pretty good. Although with the amount of removal they have, there's obviously no guarantee that Hana's going to stick around. But always happy to start a game off with a 3-bit Inspector. It's an underrated card. Although perhaps it's not. Perhaps it's just an innocuous looking card that's actually quite strong. The fact that it's a 1/2 as well. Yeah, anyway. It's not just a 1/1. Well, I think we're not going to be Steel Sabotaging their Metaworkers Puzzle Knot. We don't really need to play out the Executioner's Capture right now. So I'm happy to just have the Steel Sabotage up as a counterspell. and also be able to crack a clue if we want to. They've got their own 3-bit inspector. Fair enough too. And only plains, so no swampies as yet. And there it is, steel sabotage on the cranial plating, which does seem like a bit of a focal point for their deck, so happy to get that in the bin. Although, you know, as we know, getting artifacts into the bin is not necessarily the end of them. Hello, Sanctum Gargoyle. This time around, let's just hold our horses and crack the clue at the end of their turn. I think we'll represent Metallic Rebuke and Steel Sabotage. Metallic Rebuke could be one, if we have a game 3, that we bring in, and could be one that was worth bringing in this game, but again, it is a little on the slow side, potentially. Like they've had a slower draw this time. But given that we've got 2 3-bit inspectors, Metallic Rebuke's actually pretty good. Okay, we'll just crack the clue now, I think. For a land. I think we just want to start the E-cap train with Hana, so I think we'll play Hana rather than Sanctum Gargoyle next turn. Revoke Existence of Clue is not exactly where we want to be. So yeah, I think let's go with that plan. Let's Hana for a 3-cost 1/2 as opposed to our 1-cost 1/2. And then try and get an Executioner's Capsule, bring back Executioner's Capture next turn. If Hana can survive. So sacking the Puzzle Knot, was it? No, sacking a Clue. And a Flicker Wisp, okay. Flickering a 3-bit inspector. Very serviceable and fair enough, but also a fantastic target for our Executioner's Capsule. So let's just get that happening. Boom, boom, shake the room. And yeah, I think we'll pass the turn. Don't need to take more damage than we need to. Sacking Clue. So they are ahead on cards, but we do functionally have another card in hand in this Executioner's Capsule, so we're not too far behind. Alright, Glaze Fiend. We may decide to revoke Existence that at some point, but we may not. Get back this E-cap. Alright, that's a pretty annoying draw, all things considered. I think we still play the Sanctum Gargoyle just because it blocks really well and we can get it back with Hana as well. So let's do that. And we'll wait. We'll hold fire on the Revoke Existence for now. Like, I think if they give us one more cycle of kill your thing, get it back with Hana, it feels pretty good. Just grind away at their board, even though we're only killing 3-bit inspectors, but no, okay. They were happy to Wrath, which, you know, is a 3 for 3. But if we keep drawing land, it's going to turn into something pretty awkward. So did we end up putting the Remember the Fallen in the deck? I can't remember now. I can't remember. But that would be a nice draw to get back Hana Sanctum Gargoyle. Actually, probably Sanctum Gargoyle. Yeah, Hana Sanctum Gargoyle. Alright, so they've got their own Gargoyle. Getting back a Puzzle Knot or a no, Cranial Plating. Okay. So now we can get rid of the Cranial Plating for good if we want to. Let's turn off Auto Yields. So we'll just kill that Gargoyle, I think. Oh, maybe we don't actually. Maybe we need to kill the Mirror Retriever. Oh, that's awkward. Mirror Retriever does get back something though. Yeah. Maybe we kill the Gargoyle and revoke existence the Mirror Retriever. Because Mirror Retriever is at least another card. And hopefully we can deal with this Cranial Plating over the course of the game. Alright, well, let's just play this, and we can afford to take a couple of damage from there. Cranial Plating, but we'll put them on a clock. Yeah, this card is certainly a magic card. Does things. There are still some things that they could have to deal with it. Obviously another Wrath or something similar. Another board sweeper would do it. A flyer that's of sufficient size to block it would also do it. Merciless Eviction or a mass artifact sweeper. So it looks like maybe they were just like get in the door or something. They are back. And they have a Direfleet Hoarder. Chucking the Cranial Plating on the Retriever. Which we are not going to give them the die trigger of. We're just going to revoke existence in our turn. So go ahead and do that. Revoke existence to Retriever. In some ways, it's like, what's worse, the Cranial Plating or the Retriever? Perhaps it's better to actually revoke existence the Cranial Plating and then just attack over the top of the Retriever, because it's only 1 damage from the Retriever each turn. And the Cranial Plating is only, yes, it's only 1 damage now, but as soon as they get more artifacts in play, it's more. And it also allows them to upgrade like Glaze Fiends and things to a point where it sort of threatens our Sphinx a little more. Okay. So they've got, yeah. Iron Bully is definitely a thing. So I think probably revoke the Cranial Plating was the correct play. But this is cool because now we get a creature and potentially another one. 2, 3, 4. Hopefully we hit, and we did hit another one. And we'll put the Fairy Mechanist and then the Riddlesmith on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4 in case we hit an E-cap. Which we did. Put these on the bottom. Play the E-cap. And then swing with the Sphinxy. And that hopefully should be enough. Although Executioner's Capture doesn't kill all of their black blockers. Sorry, all of their flying blockers if they have another Glaze Fiend. Master Splicer, okay. Well, that's another +1/+1, or +1/+0 rather, to the Direfleet Hoarder, but they do not have the ability to move the Cranial Plating at instant speed. So we'll just go ahead and do this. And then if they don't have another removal spell, they die. Sweet. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the first match. We'll be back with match number 2 very shortly.